Hello, everybody. Today we got a good one for you. We will be reviewing who is on the ballot, and we also have a special guest that's going to be with me reviewing the ballot. So don't go nowhere. Class is in session. First video we did was actually on her platform. Now we coming for the second part of the video. We're talking about the Texas ballot, and I got the special guest with me, and she is the Trinity Nicole.
Hi, everybody. So we're just going to be going over the Supreme Court of Texas. And so the two individuals running for Texas Supreme Court Chief Justice, we have Amy Clark Mecham. And so she's actually running to become the ever elected to Chief Justice of Supreme Court of the Texas Supreme Court. She's been the presiding judge of the 201st District Court of Travis County, Texas since January 2011, and she currently serves as civil presiding judge for all the civil and family courts in Travis County. As a volunteer legal services of Central Texas board member, Judge Mecham has worked hard to increase access to justice by working to provide basic legal services to Texans in need. And so her opponent would be Nathan L. Hecht, and he's actually the longest serving member of the court in Texas history and the longest tenured Texas judge in active service, overseeing revisions to the rules of administration, practice, and procedure in Texas courts, and was appointed by Chief Justice of the United States to the Federal Advisory Committee on Civil Rules. He is also active in the court's efforts to assure that Texans living below the poverty level, as well as others with limited means, have access to basic civil legal services. And so this is going to be an interesting one. Amy Clark is someone who's been in the court for a long time, so it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out.
Next up, we have another Supreme Court race. We have Supreme Court place 6 between Katie and Jane. So we go to Katie. She is the Democrat nominee. She is running to restore integrity and justice, she says. And one thing about her, she is actually an immigrant. She said she fled a repressive regime and she came to America as a little girl. So she said she didn't even speak one word of English. So she had to learn how to speak English and everything. And she talks about how she learned quickly by one thing is reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. So who is she endorsed by? With Supreme Court justices, you really cannot know what they really believe, because they are ones that supposed to be ones that are objective. They really not supposed to have any positions, because what a Supreme Court, what a justice does, they supposed to interpret the law as it says, as it's written. We have a lot of judges who are starting to become one that we call judge activists, who try to fit the law according to their own views. But the Constitution states that judges are supposed to be people that looks at the word of the Constitution, of the law, of the statute, and interpret it as it says. So, but with judges, you also can see who they, what they believe, or who's supporting them by who is endorsing them. So she's endorsed by Houston Black American Democrats. She's endorsed by the caucus. We keep hearing about the caucus. So the caucus is the LGBT support group. So she's endorsed by those groups. Now we get to the next person. So one thing that we need to bring out is Jane was actually appointed to the court. So when we do have elections in Texas for our Supreme Court judges and our judges, but if a judge leaves the court or anything, it is the job of the governor to fill that seat. So after the seat is filled, then when it's time for the race to come out, then we have election. So she actually was put on the court by our current governor, Governor Abbott. And she's been serving, she has a lot of experience. She served 15 years as a justice on the First Court of Appeals. She has a very good range of court experience. So you have two different types of courts. You have the civic court, which you sue people for money, things like that, lawsuits, and you have the criminal court. So she has a lot of experience. And one good quote from her was, "I will protect and defend our United States and Texas Constitution." So she is saying that she is one that is going to interpret the law as it is written.
Yes. As mentioned, judges are not supposed to have any views. Why Supreme Court elections have actually been very controversial, because although they're not supposed to have any views, they still end up inadvertently having being partisan and biased, because they do want to get reelected. And so that's why there's been a push recently for Supreme Court judges to be appointed by government officials rather than being voted for. So for Texas Supreme Court, place 7, we have Stacy Williams. So prior to assuming the district court bench, she was a judicial clerkship in the U.S. Virgin Islands, trial attorney and administrative judge with Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, and she was a municipal court judge for the city of Dallas. She created the Citizens Civil Academy, a free nonpartisan program whose mission is to educate Dallas County citizens about the civil court system. And she is endorsed by Black American Democrats, Black Lives Matter Houston, and the caucus. And her opponent would be Jeffrey S. Boyd. Jeffrey Boyd joined the Texas Supreme Court on December 3rd, 2012, after being appointed by Governor Rick Perry to fill the remainder of Justice Dale Wainwright's unexpired term. And here's he said, "I firmly believe that our constitutional system only works when judges accept that their role is to interpret and apply the law as written, not to create it or rewrite it. Not everyone agrees with that, and some groups are making plans to take over our Supreme Court in 2020 by electing those who are willing to use the position to support political agendas. I'm running for re-election because I can't just stand by and let that happen."
So the next race we have will be place number 8. And we have Gisela versus Brett. So, like we said before, judges cannot have positions. So let's get to what they have on their website. So she is one that brings a lot of experience and balance to the Supreme Court. She would be the first Supreme Court judge that has served on all levels. She got a lot of experience, so she served on all levels. So another thing, she says the Supreme Court is lacking balance. Is lacking much balance, and everybody on the Supreme Court in Texas are Republicans. She is one that wants to bring more diversity of thought to the Supreme Court. Okay, next we got Mr. Brett. So he's saying he is a 7th-generation Texan and 3rd-generation Eagle Scout. Okay, and he graduated from Duke University and Columbia Law School. And he was appointed by Judge Abbott. So I guess a lot of people, when Judge Abbott came along, there were a lot of empty seats, or people just got off the Supreme Court to make room for new people. So one thing that stands out to me, he said, "I earned the support of every Democrat and Republican when the Texas Senate voted to prove him." So that's one thing that's very impressive, because just like the U.S. Constitution, the president picks him and the Senate confirms him. So everybody was in agreement that Brett was a good judge.
For the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, place 3, we have Elizabeth Davis Frizzell versus Burt Richardson. Elizabeth Davis Frizzell she's ready to go all the way to the Texas Supreme Court as judge of Court of Criminal Appeals, Place 3. She would be the first woman at the highest level. She has 20 years of judicial experience and 26 years of legal experience, and she wants to address disparities in sentencing. She wants to address death penalty cases and reduce wrongful convictions. And she also has a lot of energy and positivity in her campaign. And so Burt Richardson, he is proudly serving Texas for 25 years. He is on the 379th District Court judge for 10 years, appointed by Governor Bush. And since 2015, he has served the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, and he would love our vote for re-election. He has said that as a conservative-minded jurist, my responsibility is to faithfully follow the laws and the Constitution of the USA. He is endorsed by Texas Homeschool Coalition, Houston Police Officer Union, Texas Conservative View, El Paso Times, and Texas Family Action, as well as others.
Next up, we have the Supreme Court race for place 4. But before I go to the Supreme Court race, I want to say all this information will in the description box. We will link it to our Google Docs. So y'all can go through and look at these people as we going through the video, or just in your spare time if you need to write it down on your sample ballot. So when you go in to vote, you'll have it there so you don't forget.
So I also want to tell everybody about the app and the website, Ballotpedia. I have the app, My Vote. Ballotpedia is a great app. And Ballotpedia is a website where they have all the candidates on there. You can see who's your candidate. And I'm going to open it up. So you can choose your address, whether you in Houston, Austin, Dallas, or Beaumont. You can choose your address, put in your address, then you can go to your ballot. It's going to choose who's on your ballot at your local election. So go down the ballot and see who on your ballot, because when you go down to a local election, it all changes up. So if we did not cover who's on your ballot, you can go to My Vote Ballotpedia and see who's on your ballot.
So let's get to the candidates. So we got Tina versus Kevin. So Tina, she didn't have a website. So people really don't like secondhand sources, but we got it from law.com, you know. So based on what law.com said, she is one that presided over Dallas's criminal district court, and she is one that believes that we need more diversity on the high court. Get to Kevin. He actually had a website, so I'm thankful for that. What Kevin said, he said he's asking for your vote. He's asking for your vote. He has been busy traveling our big state and meeting with voters and just getting to know what's important to them. Also, he says he has much experience, and one thing he says, he would be honored to continue to serve this great state of Texas on the Criminal Appeals Court. The Criminal Appeals Court, it is the court that you appeal to if somebody applies for appeal from the lower court. So it's under the higher courts. It is under the Supreme Court, but it is a higher court that you have to appeal to. So next up, we get into the Texas government. We're leaving the Supreme Court. We get into the Texas representatives. And first up, we got the Texas representative for District 108. And it represents Dallas. And who is running? We got Joanna versus Morgan. Joanna, she supports Joanna, she supports more government health care. She wants to expand Medicaid. She's for women's rights, and she does not want the government to defund Planned Parenthood. So abortion is a big topic, but one thing that a lot of people are arguing about right now is, should the government pay for Planned Parenthood, or should the government not be giving money to Planned Parenthood? So she does not want to defund Planned Parenthood. For education, she says she reinstate funding for public schools, and she don't want any voucher program. So she's against school choice. Gun control. She wants common sense gun control, common sense gun laws. And in Texas, I don't know how well that's going to go with the Texans, but we'll see. Last but not least, environment. She wants to strengthen the environmental restrictions. And who is she endorsed by? She is endorsed by Moms Demand Action. It is a gun control group. Okay, she gets diversity points because she's a Latino woman. Let's get to Morgan. So, Morgan, he says, I'm extremely proud of what we accomplished this section. We cut a little bit of it out to save space, but one thing he did, he got like $50 billion saved to go back to school, because it's been a lot of fighting about money, and so he was one last session that helped to keep money in schools. So one big thing he got is school finance, which he's been working on. He wants to reform education, and he wants to reform property taxes. By his stance, it looks like he wants to lower property taxes. So we gonna see how that works out. And also, he says he wants to create an alarm system, kind of like the Amber Alerts, for missing people who are believed to be victims of trafficking and kidnapping. We got an academic right now. A lot of the media is not really talking about it, but we have a lot of sex trafficking going on, and a lot of kids missing, and a lot of things going on behind the scenes. So, and also, he is one that created a data that wants to create a database that tracks domestic abusers. If anybody out there trying to touch kids or out there trying to abuse women and people, he is strictly against it, and he wants the government to come in and really crack down on these things.
For Texas Senate District 13, we have Boris L. Miles versus Melinda Morris. Boris L. Miles is a lifelong resident of Houston. He was elected to the Texas Senate in 2016 after serving 4 terms in the Texas House of Representatives. Miles is a very successful businessman and developer, owning one of the largest insurance agencies in Texas. He's a fighter for the people. Miles was elected to the House in 2006 and became a leading progressive voice. His legislative initiatives increased funding for HIV testing, given second chances to individuals by making it easier to seal their juvenile records, creating an ombudsman office for the Juvenile Justice Department, and creating economic development opportunity districts in his community. And Melinda Morris is a longtime practicing obstetrician, gynecologist, and Air Force veteran. As a medical professional, Morris has shown commitment, compassion, and maturity that should serve her constituents well in legislature. Morris says she opposes abortion, she favors gun rights and border security, and supports charter schools and vouchers. But she also shows a refreshing willingness to challenge conservative orthodoxy. And I can vouch for this. I believe that I was on a Zoom call with her and a few others about a month ago, and she is definitely not an orthodox conservative. She definitely has, I would say she's very tolerant of different views, and she's very, I would say, a bit of diversity, brings a bit of diversity to the conservative ideology. And so when it comes to healthcare, something she knows a lot about, she says her party is being short-sighted. And so that's another example of that. She's a very unorthodox conservative. Okay, so depending on where you live, you might have sheriffs or constables on your ballot. I suggest doing that research and finding out who those individuals are, if there are any, so that you are aware who you're voting for when you make it to the polls.
All right, everybody, that's going to be the end of our video. And we thank y'all for coming to see our video, and we hope it was very informative. And I want to thank my special guest for coming, the Trinity Nicole. And I tell you, hey, remember, unplug and prosper. Thank y'all. Y'all have a blessed day.